Since 1962, more than 10,000 students have walked the halls of La Follette High School on Madison's southeast side. In every classroom, you'll find young scholars who embody the Lancer Pride principles of personal responsibility, respect, integrity, determination, and excellence. While the La Follette High School building hasn't changed since 1969, the way students learn and the way teachers teach has changed. This is our opportunity to bring La Follette and all of our high school buildings into the 21st century with modern, flexible classrooms and collaboration space that support diverse learning styles. Safe spaces that are inviting, accessible, and climate-controlled, and foster engagement and a love of lifelong learning in a positive school climate and culture. Through conversations with La Follette students, staff, site visits, and a comprehensive review of the building's aging infrastructure and condition, we've identified how to upgrade and modernize La Follette through Future Ready 2020 referenda. Our focus would be on major instructional space improvements, creating additional state-of-the-art lab classrooms. We'll have a new welcome center to make the main entrance of the school more accessible and secure. Every instructional space in the building will be completely updated, including all of the science, art, vocational, family and consumer science labs. The auditorium would be redesigned to build an addition for more band and orchestra rooms with a new fine arts entrance. The area below the second floor media center, known as the Pit, would be transformed into a well-lit instructional space for career learning and student activities. A new track layout would incorporate an expanded turf infield, increasing opportunities for students and the community to use the space, including physical education, band, athletics, Madison School community recreation, and other community users. We would also transform the existing field house into a new spectator gym with an addition to the field house that would provide a new entrance and lobby space. Energy-efficient upgrades to the building, including new windows and LED lighting, plus the expansion of corridors, the courtyard, and the common areas to prevent congestion in the halls. We would overhaul the building's mechanical and electrical with new sustainable energy heating and whole school air conditioning for a more comfortable learning environment. These building upgrades will benefit future generations of students at La Follette. Our new facilities will reflect the value we place on Madison's growing minds, future citizens, leaders, and workforce. Our plan reflects our scholars' potential, lifting up Lancer Pride. L's up. Thank you. Just want to say welcome and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. My name is Devon LaRosa, the principal at La Follette High School. And tonight our goal is to talk to you and share with you about Referenda 2020 and then answer some questions. Tonight joining us and supporting us and sharing with us this evening are Dr. Carlton Jenkins, our superintendent, Dr. Marvin Pryor, Chief of Secondary Schools, Mr. Mike Hernandez, Chief of Secondary Schools, and also Dr. Mike Herding, our interim chief of staff. And I'm also going to turn it over to Mr. Matt Thompson, my assistant principal.
Hey, Devon, thank you so much. Also joining us tonight, Kelly Ruppel, our chief financial officer. Chad Weezy's with us tonight, our executive director of building services. We have two school board members with us tonight. Ali Muldrow, our board member, and Nikki Vandermeulen, one of our board members. Thank you for being here tonight. Andrew Statz, our Executive Director of Accountability, is with us as well. We also have some Team La Follette with us. Jennifer Pluger, Assistant Principal, is in the house, along with Ray Rosing, one of my colleagues, Assistant Principal, La Follette, as well as Tim Rockhold, our Interim Athletic Director, is with us as well. And back to you, Dr. Jenkins.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, thank you so much for that introduction of our team here. And also thank you, Mr. LaRussa. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight in Lancer Country as we're getting ready to talk about our Future Ready 2020 referendum. And as such, tonight, I'm saying to all of our viewers out here, thank you for coming out to visit us tonight, because this is a very important information night for everyone. As we know, November the 3rd is just around the corner, and it's a very exciting election on a national level, very important election, but we don't want everyone to forget the fact that we have also a very important referendum going on right now that will take place on November the 3rd. So we want to come here tonight to give you as much information as possible for those who have not already done early voting. So when you go to the polls, you will have the appropriate information to make sure that we can do the things that we do in the Madison community, which is to continue to make sure that we're a quality place to live and to learn. Now, having said that, when we look at our Future Ready referendum, we're grounded in our core values. Our core values starts right out with excellence. And did you not enjoy that video? That was awesome there. And I just loved it, you know, hell to the L too, by the way. But the video said a lot about what we're trying to do with this particular referendum. And you're going to hear much more about it later from my colleagues as they go into it, Ms. Rupel and also Mr. Weezy, in terms of the two questions themselves. But as I said, we were grounded in excellence when we thought about this. And this is what Madison does, right? We want to make sure we have the best city, we want to have the best school system, and we've done this for a long time. So we're asking that you look at our core values of belonging. We want everyone to feel like they belong. Madison, we've come a long way. We really do profess to be a very progressive city. And in doing that, we've seen the changing over time. And we want to make sure that everyone feel like they belong and that they can continue to be creative as they're doing so. We want to make sure that everyone is remaining focused in our district. And we want to make sure, too, that we uplift our racial and social justice within our schools. Over the last couple of years, we have, too, thank you, shown some progress as we've gone through with our schools. We have our high schools here all have met, you know, the state's requirement, but we're talking about significantly exceeds. We have several schools that have done that, but our goal in Madison Metropolitan School District is to move our schools, all of our schools, over into this particular area. So we've been behind the scenes last several years, being fiscally responsible, making the tough cuts where we've had to, but yet continue to try to be innovative, working with our staff, listening to our community. And as such, last spring, we had an opportunity to go out in our community, and we had 50 sessions of talking to the community. What do you envision for Madison Metropolitan District schools in terms of our students, our staff, and our community? What do our children deserve? What do our staff, what do they deserve? And as a result, we received over 4,000 responses. And those responses said to us a number of things. First of all, in terms of looking at us being realistic in terms of what our real needs are. Can we do it all in one fell swoop? Or do we need to be very strategic and look down the road and take the long view? So what you're seeing presented in this referendum is the first step to a long view plan. And as such, we have some information that we're going to be presenting to you. But the question I want to share with you that came up several times, why now? Should we do a referendum now? So as a part of trying to assess what the community was telling us, we looked out and took the surveys, and we asked the question about during COVID-19, 60% of our community recognized that it's tough economic times right now for individuals. Unemployment is at a high. We're looking at the social-emotional issues within our community, the racial injustice, everything going on. 60% responded, yes, now is the time. And let me say, we really do appreciate that support, but we really do honor that 40% who said, no, pause for a second. And we're going to continue to work with our entire community to make sure we get everyone where we need for everyone to go. And as you'll see laid out in here, we took every effort to make sure that this particular referendum, these two questions, are upholding what we're trying to do with our strategic framework and ensuring that our students, goal one, are ready for college, careers in the community, and goal two, giving us a space where students and staff and parents in the community feel like it's a safe space for learning, taking it to the next level. And then in goal three, we have a lot of attention in terms of making sure that our Black youth and children will excel during these times in Madison Metropolitan School District. Now, having said that, I would like to turn it over for the next two questions. And we're going to start off with the operation and have Ms. Rupel to take that.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. So on your ballots for the November 3rd election, or potentially in your hand for a mail-in ballot, will be 2 questions for the Madison Metropolitan School District. The first question is an operating referendum question, which I'll go into more details in a minute, and then my coworker Chad Weezy will do question 2. What's important to understand is that these 2 questions do not happenstance be on the agenda on the referendum together. They're intentionally placed on the ballot in order to move the district forward. The operating budget is needed for the overall supports of students and staff and the instructional vision moving forward. But just as important, our facilities hold the climate and culture of which our students exist, and together they'll move our district forward. So the operating referendum question looks like this on your ballot. Because it's a legal entity, it's a legal language. So we want to focus on what does it mean. So an operating referendum is a question to you, the property tax owners here in Madison, for your permission to increase taxes above and beyond state limits. That request is for $6 million in this current school year, $8 million year 2, 21-22, $9 million year 3, and $10 million year 4, for a cumulative of $33 million. So why do we need that, and why are we asking for it now? Well, the reality is that our revenues from the state are no longer tied to any data like inflation. Rather, our revenue limits have become a political discussion point at the state capitol. They ebb and flow up and down with the election cycles, and that's not the way a public school system can budget for the future. We need reliable funding sources where we can plan for the future. Talking about those plans, where did this referendum money go? Well, here are just some of the things. First, under our new superintendent, Dr. Jenkins, a deep focus on early literacy. And what that looks like is an entire new reading curriculum in our early grades based in phonics. Professional development for our teachers in the science of reading, all wrapped around the goals in our strategic framework or in increasing 3rd grade reading levels. In addition to that, daily world language for our middle school students, opening up access and opportunity through high school and well into college as it relates to world language opportunities for kids. Programming in the arts, music, science, and technology continues to need investment in the school district and moving ahead in the future of what these programs look like around a well-rounded child. Of course, we need to attract and retain high-quality teachers. We operate in an environment here in Dane County where we're constantly competing for the highest quality, diverse staff. We have to remain competitive in that environment in order to put the best teachers in front of our students at all times in every school. And certainly our strategic equity projects, those that have shown outcomes for our students, continue to need investment and expansion. This includes our early college STEM academy, restorative justice programs across our school district, and continuing to invest in historically and culturally relevant curriculum for kids. So what would this mean on your local property taxes? Well, for every $100,000 in home value, you're looking at a $27 per year incremental increase. So that whole $33 million does not go on the tax base in 1 year. It's $6 million in 1 year, and it incrementally grows over time. After 4 years, it does stay in the tax base, which allows us to invest in programs for the future and not just in projects that might happen one time. And I'll be back to answer more questions on that at the end. I'll hand this over to Chad Weezy.
Thank you, Kelly. Here to talk about the second question. Good evening, everyone. Chad Weezy. I'm currently the Executive Director of Building and Administrative Services. Former Dean of Students, head football coach, assistant principal, and head principal at the one and only La Follette High School. So I've been looking forward to this night for a very long time. It's good to see everybody. Certainly excited to talk about this. I know this building like the back of my hand and would love to see all these projects come to life. So similar to Kelly, I just wanted to give everyone a quick idea of what you'll see on the actual ballot. Certainly not going to take the time to read you all the details here, but as you can see, this is just that. It is detailed. It's required by law that we share many of the facets that will actually exist in these projects if we were to pass the question number 2 here in the coming month. The big number there obviously is at $317 million. We're going to break that down for you a little bit tonight and certainly get into the specifics around La Follette in particular. Next slide. So I'm here to try to break down the entire referendum package tonight in terms of question 2, and then do what I can to give you greater detail in terms of how this will impact La Follette specifically. So to give you a better idea of where the $317 million on the capital side would be spent, we would do similar, not the same, but similar projects at our other 3 comprehensive high schools. East, West, and Memorial all have about $70 million set aside if this were to pass, to do many projects in terms of both maintenance and great improvement work to our instructional settings. The second kind of bucket that would be in these in all these projects would be having our students that currently go to Capitol High East and Capitol High West finally have a permanent home. So we currently have former La Follette Lancers that are currently Capitol High Royals that were looking for a fresh start, looking for a smaller place to go to school, possibly looking for some more steady staffing in terms of knowing who your teachers are going to be for a couple of years, that may be at Capitol High East or possibly even Capitol High West. Capitol High East is currently housed on the 3rd floor of Lapham Elementary School, and Capitol High West is currently across the street from Memorial High School in a renovated storefront. We've got roughly 200 students at those 2 sites, and we're looking to centralize a single location to get out of a leased storefront, get out of an elementary school, and give these students the home that they deserve. So we are looking to take the Hoyt building, which is currently the home to MSCR, mainly adult office space during the day, and a lot of programming, both morning, night, and during the day, and move MSCR out and actually move Capitol High in. And that would be a project that'd be roughly about $7 million to actually renovate that back into a school like it's supposed to be. And then lastly, this would directly impact the La Follette attendance area. I specifically remember countless nights driving down to the south side of Madison, that Rimrock Road area, to meet with a family, get a student home, pick a student up, and connect with families that are nowhere close to La Follette High School. And you know what? They have not been close to a school their entire K-12 experience. Most of those families have lived on the south side of Madison in that Rimrock Road area, and they've gone on the bus, a long bus ride to Alice Elementary School. They've hopped on that same bus and taken a long bus ride to Senate Middle School, and then they finished out their academic career with a long bus ride to La Follette. So the exact opposite of the experience that students at Henderson Elementary School are having, where they get the luxury of walking all of those years, K through 12, walking to Henderson Elementary, walking to Senate, and walking to La Follette. This is a neighborhood that has been in need of an elementary school. I lived it for 10 years and know it. And we're excited about the fact that this is possible. That new elementary school, what that does for us is a couple of things. One, just like I talked about, that's a neighborhood that hasn't had an elementary school ever. So we've got students that have a longer than average bus ride, but we have a kind of an isolated island in that neighborhood that families have not been able to walk to school or have a relatively short commute to school to do anything from go to see a play to go see a teacher or principal. And it's been a pocket that we've needed to attend to for a long time. So that's the first thing that we know we'll accomplish with that. The other part's a little more complicated to understand, but right now we're actually proposing moving the students and staff that are currently at Alice Elementary School, including the attendance area, and we'd move them into that new school. So Alice Elementary School, if you're familiar with it, is on Buckeye Road. So we take all the students that have been getting on that long bus ride, and we'd move them into that new site, freeing up Alice Elementary, leaving it empty. And that empty building would afford us the opportunity to move Nuestra Mundo Elementary School, and I imagine many of the people watching tonight may have come through the Nuestra Mundo pipeline as well, and we'd be able to get Nuestra Mundo a permanent home. Right now, Nuestra Mundo, an incredibly successful charter school for us in Madison, is at Maywood Elementary School. We're leasing in an elementary school from Monona, and that's something that's been happening over 10 years now, and we'd save on those lease costs, give Nuestra Mundo the home they've been asking for so long. And we'd be able to get Nuestra Mundo a permanent home. Right now, Nuestra Mundo is at Maywood Elementary School. We're leasing in an elementary school from Monona, and that's something that's been happening over 10 years now, and we'd save on those lease costs, give Nuestra Mundo the home they've been asking for so long. with that move. So kind of a two-step move there. Plenty of benefits if we're able to get this passed in November. Last thing on the bottom there, kind of a foundation to all this is the importance for us to continue to reduce our carbon footprint with what we do with facilities and operations. I'll speak to that a little bit more as we kind of get through the La Follette specific projects. But folks should know that we will certainly have an eye on making sure that all of our systems that we put into these projects would be done with an eye on energy efficiency. Our school board worked with us. We heard from folks in those 50 community sessions Dr. Jenkins talked about, and the school board said, put a little bit more money in these projects to make sure that we can get energy efficiency built in and call it out. So La Follette High School will have a very good sized solar array that will go in as part of this project that wasn't initially, was much smaller initially in scope, and many other facets of sustainability that will go in that we're really excited about. Next slide. So similar to Kelly, we wanted to make sure we're perfectly transparent in terms of tax impact. I think the facility side is a little cleaner as far as making sure everyone can understand it. The tax impact on $100,000 in home value would be $50 a year. Unlike the operating question, where we build it into the tax base and there'd be a tax increase that would stick with families as long as the school board continued to tax for it. The capital referendum is like taking out a big loan. So we're essentially taking out a 22-year mortgage on all those facility projects in the form of a bond, and we would pay that off over a 22-year period of time. And when that was done and the taxpayers of Madison paid off all those improvement projects, we would own all the work that would happen, similar to taking out a home equity loan and replacing your roof. Once it's paid off, we own the capital maintenance that happened. The city of Madison owns it as a capital asset. Mill rate adjustment on that would be 44 cents for those 22 years. So I am going to share my screen if I can get a chance. So what I'd like to do tonight, and I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible because we want to make sure we have time for questions. I am pulling this right off of our website. So I Googled MMSD Future Ready, and there are schematic drawings available on our website for all of the projects, but I want to spend some time at La Follette High School tonight. And it's 2 simple slides. And for those of you who are familiar with the La Follette facility, I'm hoping this makes a lot of sense to you, and we've got some head nodding in terms of what these project proposals look like. So this is just our aerial view, and it's important at La Follette because of these projects. La Follette's actually getting a decent amount of new construction to kind of carry out what we want to see on the instructional side at LHS. So all these red blocks would actually be areas of new construction at La Follette. I'm going to work through them rather quickly and then get into the inside of the building. So going north to south, this new block of construction, this is kind of our weight room, auto area, and current field house. This would be an area that we'd build a two basketball court addition along with an athletics entrance and bathrooms and concession area because we plan on changing, as Devon mentioned in that lead-in video, plan on changing our current field house actually into the spectator gym. And I'll tell you why in just a second. This other red box here, we are cutting into the weight room in that new construction area. So this would be a new weight and fitness room that would be facing, I can already picture the big tall windows right here facing Loosier Stadium. This would be a field turf renovation, just as Devon mentioned in that lead-in video. A couple other areas to call out in terms of new construction. This is that new band and orchestra area Devon mentioned to get us started. And this would be a new entrance for kind of that athletics area, that activities area, get you into kind of the fine arts wing and a renovated theater at La Follette. As you can see here, this is the C wing at La Follette High School. Any of you who've been there during passing period know how incredibly congested that can get. We are proposing doubling the size of the C wing to allow for better accessibility and traffic flow. And then lastly, on the south side here, currently the Welcome Center at La Follette High School is on the corner right there. And that's just a renovated classroom when we decided to set up secure entry sequences at La Follette. And it's not terribly accessible for families. Lots of time, this parking is very difficult. And we're proposing some new guest and handicap parking in the front of the building. and a new main entrance to La Follette High School, which would call out, here's La Follette from Flom Road. You had nowhere to go into the building. We've made some parking adjustments to make sure families and visitors have easy access to our facility, and you're right into the building instead of kind of working your way down an academic corridor. This would be a new office suite probably for administrative support staff for our families to have access to. So on the inside, a little bit more detail here, so to give everyone an idea what's in these projects. Anything on these drawings that's red, that's anything that was a new addition. Anything that is darker blue, that's heavy renovation, which means we've set aside money to literally take down walls and build them back up from scratch. So all that means is it's essentially new construction, but it's in a spot in the building it already exists. And then the lighter blue is light renovation. That would be things like flooring, ceiling, lights, wall finishes, integrated technology, heating and cooling systems. So as I work my way through this, here's that new gym I talked about. Here's the new spectator gym. If any of you have been to the East High School gym where we moved their spec gym into the field house, that project turned out wonderfully. We try to mirror that. There's that new fitness center over here on the west side of the building. I should say locker rooms, we spent already a pretty significant amount of time with the La Follette Phi Ed staff discussing what locker room layout might look like. I guess in summary, it's going to be really important that these locker rooms are accessible. Many of them aren't right now. They have gender neutral, both bathroom facilities and changing areas, that we have kind of non-binary spaces from the corridor that students are comfortable to enter the space that they feel the best about. And we want to make sure these are flexible. So these locker rooms have to be, have us have the ability for several seasons to kind of use them as we float them in and out. Showers would be completely done, again, with an eye on accessibility. Bathrooms throughout the building, hold your applause, would be completely redone. So floor to ceiling bathrooms, for that matter, in all of our high schools would be completely redone. They have not been touched since La Follette's really been built. So it's a long time overdue. Here's the old spectator gym. I think this is an interesting feature in these project ideas. We're proposing turning that into a science, tech, engineering, and mathematics lab. We work with Devon, his instructional leaders, and also obviously the La Follette community students and staff to figure out exactly what that space looks like. But that is literally an empty box for us to fill in around what the next 5, 10, 20 years of instruction might look like at La Follette High School. It's got nice high ceilings. It is an empty space for us to kind of get really imaginative in terms of how it can support La Follette students. So we're excited about that. Heavy renovation in our tech ed and our lab areas there. On this end of the building, here's that band and orchestra addition I talked about. Here's that lobby I mentioned. We're excited about this. Come in from the east side of the building, from the parking lot now. Now you'd have a hallway that would take you right to the commons, which would mean you'd have easy accessibility to the cafeteria and commons, and also the theater we're renovating. And if you have a night now that we have a fine arts event going on in the theater, and you've got a night where we have a varsity basketball game taking place, and those nights do happen, we'd have 2 separate entrances for our families to know where to go, keep folks separate. So how many nights I can remember supervising basketballs bouncing off the wall at the same time we've got a choir concert going on, and we'll be able to split those things up now. So it's really nice. It's really nice to have that. Working our way through the rest of the building here, again, all of our classrooms would see that kind of light level of renovation I mentioned. Furniture, ceilings, lights, heating and cooling. I should mention, just I don't even know if we'll get the question. La Follette right now is 9% air conditioned, which is the lowest of our 4 comprehensive high schools. It becomes a barrier to learning in the spring and the fall and the summer. And we're looking to take that barrier down. So you would have wall-to-wall air conditioning at La Follette High School. Our heating system's also original to the building. So that can be problematic in the winter when we can have classrooms that are really hard to keep at a solid temperature. So we do a complete floor-to-ceiling upgrade on our heating and cooling system. New windows throughout the entire building. All of the La Follette windows are original to La Follette High School. Incredibly energy efficient, not terribly usable. So that we're excited about that in all the instructional spaces. Here's that new office suite I talked about with a new entrance. This indoor collaboration space, that is an area affectionately known as the Pit at La Follette High School. So in the 1970s, a dreamy set of architects decided that we wanted to build an LMC at La Follette High School, and the place to do it was to put it on stilts over an outdoor amphitheater at La Follette, leaving like a really goofy covered courtyard that has very little functionality at La Follette. It may have seemed like a great idea in the 70s. Right now it is the home to, 150 swallows on any given day. It's home to kind of a stinky, mildewy smell, and it's not terribly useful at La Follette High School. This would be now an indoor space. We'd work with Devon, his community, and his staff to figure out what we want this to turn into. I picture this a spot that, if there's a day we want an English teacher to collaborate with a math teacher on a project aligned to one of our pathways, we've got breakout space in between these two academic wings. We could bring 50 kids here together, have flexible furniture, bring them into a renovated kind of indoor collaboration space, and have room for them to do that teaching and learning. So the other thing here that we really need at La Follette High School right now, if you can picture this, if you're a student right now and you go to class and you are in a wheelchair and you go to first period class in the lower A wing and you have second period class in the upper A wing, you have to go in your wheelchair outside to an elevator, upstairs, and then back over. This school has a lot of barriers as far as handicap accessibility, and we'd like to make sure that this is ADA compliant to the max. This should be a barrier-free school. There shouldn't be stairs that students who have accessibility needs have to navigate, and many of the upgrades in this building would make sure that those barriers are taken down. Bathrooms, locker rooms, stairwells with switchback ramps, and making sure that that elevator is fully accessible, not having students with accessibility needs having to go outside. So we're excited about that. On the upstairs, we've set aside major money here for the art gallery. What happens with the media collaboration space? All of our science labs, we've set aside money to completely redo those science spaces. But I could go on all day about this because I am that excited about what La Follette High School could look like 3 or 4 years from now. But I'm going to stop and I'm going to turn things back over. I believe Kelly has a wrap-up slide, and then we might get to answer some questions.
I sure do. Thank you, Chad. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about what these two questions together on a ballot would mean for our local property tax owners. So what you're looking, if both referendum questions pass together, it would be a $60 increase for every $100,000 in home value in year one, which accumulates to $130 for every $100,000 in home value by year 4. So with that said, I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Jenkins to close us up and hand this over to board members for questions. Dr. Jenkins?
Yes, first of all, let me just say thank you to everyone who presented tonight, and I hope for our viewers that you have more information now, that you can feel a little bit more informed once you go to the polls on November the 3rd. And I have to say, the energy is just infectious. You heard Mr. Weezy and Ms. Rupel, and you had an operation person and a facilities person talking about the academics and the facilities. And this is why these two questions really do intersect. And I remember being here in 1993, very excited about Madison. And when I returned and went to Madison Memorial, I said, oh my, I'm glad to be back. But the building looks identical to 1993. And then I went over to see Mr. LaRusso, right? Mr. Hernandez took me over there. And I said, wow, La Follette looks the same. And so Mr. LaRusso took me down in the pit and told me all the stories about the pit, and told me how he's going to get the students involved and the parents involved, and just his excitement. It was just something about being over there in Lancer country too. And I hope that our viewers take the information tonight, as our other viewers have taken it, about their areas. And Mr. Weezy, I would like for you to point everyone to our website, like you've done in the past, so that they can see those schematics, in which Mr. LaRusso shared it with me when I was over there as well. So thank you guys so much. That website, Mr. Weezy?
Absolutely, just trying to find that mute button. Yeah, so again, the easiest way to do this, just to kind of do away with the web extension, Google MMSD Future Ready. The top hit in Google will be that website, and tons of details there on La Follette and actually all things referendum. But those drawings are in there, Dr. Jenkins, as well as a 100-page facilities assessment, our process and how we came up with these ideas. Budgets are in there, and then all of the details on all of the other projects, and then all the stuff Kelly talked about as far as the operating referendum, including a tax calculator. There must be 30 FAQs that we've started to accumulate. So plenty of reading there if you are looking for more information following tonight's session.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And thanks to our board too for making sure that we were taking our strategic framework and our core values and all playing them out, threading them throughout this whole referendum in these two questions as well. Thank you. Now, the board members. Ms. Rule.
Hi, my name is Nikki Vandermeulen. I have a unique relationship with La Follette as my grandfather was the first principal of this school in 1963. The auditorium and theater we keep mentioning is actually the Vandermeulen Auditorium, and it's something that I can't wait to see redone because it was a space I grew up in with the pit as well. I tripped on the pit. I've had accessibility issues with the pit and I played hide and seek with the pit, and no offense, it's gotta go. It really is. But very, very simply, I'm here tonight to answer questions that are asked by the audience, and so that Chad and Kelly can explain everything to you individually, because these are complicated terms and we want everyone to have all their questions answered. I'll answer the first question, then my wonderful colleague Ali Muldrow will introduce herself and ask the second question, and we'll switch on and off from there. I will click on the document right now because I don't screen share well. I am just going to ask the first one. The first one is for Kelly Ruppel. Isn't there already money in the budget for facility improvements?
Thanks, Nikki. That's a really good question. There is money in the budget for facility improvements. I mentioned in my talking points the constraints we have around the revenue limit. I think it's really important for people to understand that that facility maintenance budget is under the revenue limit as well. So year after year, when the revenue limit does not keep up with inflation, we end up in a point where we're at today, where the maintenance budget for facilities and the resources we need for students and teachers and instruction starts to compete with each other because there just isn't enough. So our maintenance budget is just about $5 million. Chad can give you what that means on a square footage basis, but what I can tell you is that our maintenance budget is not enough. And that is the reason why we start to see some of the challenges in our schools today. So large projects like these will help us to catch up. And instead of spending so much of our maintenance budget on our high schools like we do today, it'll free up funding in the maintenance side to invest in our elementary and our middle schools. And matter of fact, this board has already put aside some of that passing referendum operating budget to ensure that it gets into that maintenance budget to continue to build that over time as well. So both the facilities and the operating question together help to invest more in the facilities improvement across the district, not just in the high schools or the projects Chad talked about. Chad, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, Kelly, I could go on all day around budget and what happens in terms of school maintenance. To your point, my budget's around $5 million. We own nearly 5 million square feet. So to try to just put that into some scale, we're maintaining commercial construction. Replacing a roof at La Follette High School costs $18 a square foot. So if you replace your roof every 30 years, the maintenance budget really start to gobble up in a hurry. So to attempt to maintain anything for essentially $1 a square foot is really difficult. We've got an amazing trade staff. I am proud of how La Follette High School looks to this day. We are beyond useful life of a lot of the assets we've got in that building. And Kelly, I think if you mentioned before, 83% of our budget's humans. And we're a human capital industry. The most important thing that happens in that building every day is teaching and learning. We've got to take care of the staff and do it. And the community's done it for a long time. And this happens in lots of districts. The facilities get neglected. So I have money to maintain lots of our things, but it's just not enough. And yeah, I guess in closing, if you're In many cases, I consider this almost like a home equity loan on an asset we're going to own for another 50 years. If you need to replace a roof, sometimes you don't have $10,000 sitting in your checking account to write a check for that roof. You may need to take out a home equity loan because you're going to be in the house for another 15 years and the house still needs a roof. That's really what's happening with this building. We're just reinvesting and improving at the same time to make sure La Follette High School's got another 50 years in it, and it will.
Chad, Kelly, thank you so much for speaking to those questions. I am Ali Muldrow, and I'm the Vice President in the Madison Board of Education. I am so grateful to get to be here with you all this evening and to get to ask questions. Chad and Kelly, this is us together 2 nights in a row. So, you know, the band is back, playing some of the old hits, and speaking to how we want to better serve our community, our schools, our young people, and our educators. So this is a great conversation to get to be a part of, and thank you to everybody who is tuning in and listening. I am going to ask our second question of the night, and this question is for Chad. You talked about this a little bit during the presentation, but can you speak more to how we're planning to invest in plumbing, how we're prioritizing gender neutral spaces and inclusion through our plans in improving our facilities?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just out at La Follette High School again today, and as I said, those restrooms are essentially original. They were not built with ADA accessibility considered at all through the design. And this idea of gender accessibility was nowhere even on the planet at that point. So when we redo these spaces, those will be the 2 things we make sure that we take into consideration, that there's gender neutral restrooms for all students to feel comfortable going to the bathroom at La Follette High School. And then we'll make sure that they're fully accessible. The other thing redoing the whole thing, new ceramic tile, new plumbing fixtures, the bathroom stalls we've got at La Follette High School in the A and the B wing right now can't fit a wheelchair. So students who are in a wheelchair and have to use the restroom facilities have to go to a different part of the building, sometimes even on an elevator. So that needs to be over and would be done when we redo these bathrooms. The other thing that I think I should mention on the bathroom side, it would also be kind of our goal post-COVID to also make the bathrooms as safe and sanitary as possible. You should touch as few things as possible when you go to the bathroom. So you probably shouldn't have to touch a doorknob on the way into the bathroom. You probably shouldn't have to touch a water fountain when you wash your hands. You probably shouldn't have to touch a paper towel dispenser. And we would make sure we take all of that into consideration when we design the bathroom. So it's not only super accessible, but it's safe as well.
Thank you very much, Chad. This next question is actually for Kelly, and it's something that I always had a hard time with, so it's something that I think everyone should hear. And that's, I don't really understand what the mill rate means. Can you put that in other terms to explain the tax impact of both of these referendums passed?
Sure. So the mill rate is what your property taxes are at every $1,000 of home value. So the reason why we often talk about mill rate is because it takes out of the consideration the inflation for property value itself. So it's really hard to compare taxes between, us in Fitchburg, City of Madison and Fitchburg, because the home values themselves are fundamentally different, because in the City of Madison, you're close to the state capitol or to UW and the things that help hold up property value, including Madison Metropolitan Schools. And so we take kind of that whole property value inflation out of it, so we can look at property taxes for every $1,000, and it helps to make it comparable.
Thank you so much. And now I will switch over to Ali Muldrow for the next question.
Thank you so much for clarifying that, Kelly. The next question I think is a really interesting question, and I am going to shorten it slightly because it's pretty lengthy, although we greatly appreciate you for getting the full question in there, Jen, and Mary for submitting your question. So the question is, I'm struggling to understand why schools do not plan for long-term expenses, why these expenses aren't anticipated expenses, why school districts continue to go to referendum for things that could be anticipated and budgeted for in another way.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. And I tried to answer that in my opening comments. The state law makes it incredibly difficult to plan for the future. For one, our operating limits are tied to, $179 per pupil this year if the state doesn't change it due to COVID. That's $4.8 million across 50 schools, 27,000 kids, and almost 4,000 staff. Doesn't go very far. And so we don't have the kind of flexibility to really put money to the side and plan for the future like an individual homeowner might. In addition to that, a lot of people don't know that we can't just go out and take a loan. By law, we can. It's about $1 million of which we could go out and kind of borrow without approval of the board and going to taxpayers. So this kind of investment, when you're talking $25 million to build a new elementary school, really we have to go to the voters. That's the way the state law is written. And it's actually written to build transparency. It's written so that the voters have a say in whether they have a new elementary school or not, for example. The law is written such that we have to go to you to ask, and that's the way they want the voters to participate in kind of the local government and the local public education.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And I'm going to skip around on this blue questions because a board member has written in and has a wonderful question. And former La Follette grad Savian Castro asks, will the La Follette parking lot be fixed?
Hey, Savian, Chad Weezy, former principal with you. It's good to see you again. Thanks for weighing in. Savian, we just redid about half of the La Follette parking lot. So if anything, we do the back half, kind of the east half of the lot that's a little broken up. But that La Follette lot just got done about 3 years ago. So it's going to be on us as we work our way through these projects. We don't want to rip down things in the building that still have a lot of useful life left in them. We actually redid a little bit of the roof at La Follette High School a few years ago. That won't get replaced. There's some new air handling units on the roof. Those will stay in place as well. So odds are part of the parking lot will get redone. If we end up with some parking on the front, that'll obviously be new. But it's probably just going to be the back half, Savian. It's not as bad as you might remember it when it was pothole ridden and you could lose a car in it 5-6 years ago. It's much better than it was.
And turning to Ali for the next question.
Yeah, I appreciate that Savian is jealous that we get to hang out with you all. Could not stay away from hanging out with us on Zoom. Our next question is going to be for the team, and it's coming from Damon. Is asking, of all of the projects that are going to happen at La Follette, what are the things you all are the most excited about that will have the greatest impact as your work as folks who are staff at La Follette?
I'll start, and I would ask my colleagues to jump in with me. I actually texted Chad Weezy probably a week ago. And so just off the bat, the excitement that's being generated, I had a student email me on it was like a Monday night at like 8 p.m. and ask, tell me more about this referendum thing. Are we getting some new stuff? And I just thought that was super cool. And then we went back and forth in email, and I was like, I'll send you some pictures of these boards in my office. And it was just really cool, the excitement. I believe the student was a sophomore. And just the excitement that is generating. Okay, so what specifically do I get excited about, or do I think be most beneficial for my students? I think the opportunity for every classroom to have an updated learning environment. When I say that, I mean like ceiling, and I mean like lighting, I mean desks and chairs, all of that matters. And when you're in a space, and each one of us are in a space that we pick to be in, I'm in the most comfortable chair in my house, right? By design tonight. And so I'm going to say students are going to have that opportunity where they're going to be in the most comfortable space. So I just love that, right? I know that seems simple, but I think also we're doing more work with our community partners than ever than before. And I think that something that's cool is how we can use these flexible spaces that aren't classrooms, but these flexible spaces to invite community partners in and to join us in our work. And I just think that's super cool. So I won't take everything. I'll let my colleagues jump in as well.
Oh, can I jump in next, Devon?
Absolutely. I knew you would.
So there are a number of things that I'm very excited about. One of my departments is special education. The Chad referenced the serious accessibility issues that this building faces. So students with disabilities at La Follette High School, although rich programming, just the way the building right now is set up and its access points were primarily located in the back of the building. And there are multiple parts of the school that students with different physical disabilities simply cannot access and or cannot get to class on time. And it is truly an accessibility issue that we live with each and every day. I also think about on the website, there is the architectural assessment that was done. One of our instructional spaces in that area is a kitchen that's going to need upgrading for students that are getting some life skills that are necessary, and portions of that are not accessible either. So the potential around equalizing the platform there at La Follette to make sure that every bathroom is wheelchair accessible. All of our curb cuts are accessible. Our curb cuts currently are not wide enough. They're difficult to clear in the winter for students who do use a wheelchair. So that is a major issue that I'm hoping can be addressed. And the other thing, as Devon mentioned too, is when we think about some of the really incredible things that could be on the table when we look at that spectator gym or that fine arts space, we have a very robust community. We have a lot of alum that support La Follette, and this involved community, they want to come back to their school. They love going to performances, and as Chad knows, and Nikki, you remember that auditorium, it's packed. We don't have capacity there for events. We have to turn people away. So I'm excited about that Fine Arts Center and the possibilities that's going to bring. Can I say one more? I don't want to steal the thunder. Can I do one more? I also this year, one of the departments I supervise are custodians, and I've learned so much about building maintenance and infrastructure that I never knew that I would learn in principal school. But our heating and cooling systems, we live it every day. And again, the architectural assessment really didn't go into detail about what happens, like Chad, with our boilers, right? There's 4 main boilers, 2 are basically inoperable. And that building's been functioning for years on 2 boilers. Our custodians work between the first shift to get that thing going. It's about 3 hours a day. I asked our custodian today, it takes 3 hours a day to get those boilers fired up and going and maintained to heat that building. And as you know, invariably different zones are breaking down. Those condense pumps are always breaking. And that leaves us without heat in different parts of the building at any given point in the winter. So I'm excited about a comfortable learning environment for students and staff. I'll give way to my colleagues here. Yeah.
Thanks, Thompson.
Yeah.
I, as a former science teacher and currently working with the science department, as well as having a current 6th grader who's going to be a Lancer in 3 short years, help me, I'm going to have a high schooler in 3 years. But I am really excited about the lab spaces and the STEAM space that we're already getting excited to innovate and dream about. Mr. LaRosa and I had the opportunity to visit another school for a conference last January, and our conference was in this beautiful STEAM space with opportunities for students to innovate, to prototype, to do the work that is leading our country right now in innovation in tech spaces and tech in engineering. And we want to create that space at La Follette for our Lancers to come out of La Follette leading industries in innovation, engineering, science, and technology. So I'm super excited about that space. I'm also the parent of an amazing non-binary kiddo who right now I don't know how would navigate in La Follette very well. And that scares me, and that's real. And so I'm really excited for all of our students. And my kiddo who's in first grade, we got like a minute longer for that one. Mama Heart does better with that. But they're coming. That kiddo's coming, and then we have other kiddos who are there now. Young adults who need a space to know that they belong, to be able to do gym class fully affirmed for who they are. And that excites me because it's where we got to be.
I have one statement before I read the next question, and that's Matthew Thompson has an excellent point on accessibility, both for individuals in wheelchairs and non, because I went and visited all the schools in our district, and I timed myself. I would have been late to every single class in La Follette because there was no way I could get through the back corridors fast enough to be able to make it to class. And that's sprinting, which I know I'm not supposed to run to school, but I wanted to try it just for the sake of doing it. And it needs, our kids deserve best on that, and that needs to be a priority. And I appreciate that it's being noticed. But leading into that, this is a question for both Chad and Dr. Jenkins. Damon writes, I didn't see any upgrades to the tech ed department. Will you guys invest in tech education? Our surrounding communities have invested millions to improving their tech education department. Traditionally, urban districts have turned a blind eye to careers in the trades and have focused more energy towards post-secondary schooling, such as college. Are we failing to invest in the trades?
Dr. Jenkins, you want me to take that quick?
Yeah, why don't you take it quick and then I'll follow up.
And then you can certainly follow up. I'm interested to hear your take on just what's going on in investing in the trades.
Sure.
So Damon and I, like I said, I went through that at lightning speed. But if you pull up MMSD Future Ready and want to take a further look at these plan sets, on the east side of the building, you will see dark blue. And it's dark blue in the tech ed area. And it's also dark blue in STEAM, science, tech, engineering, arts, and math. So we have a large amount of money, like $250 a square foot in these instructional spaces to take them down all the way to the brick wall and build them back up. So if there's actually a spot at La Follette High School we got right in terms of this question, we are reinvesting in the trades big time. Those labs are caught in 1960. You're still looking to change out that 4-barrel carburetor in a Mustang, and we need to flip that, get some community partners in there, get state-of-the-art labs on everything from auto to fab labs, you name it. And so we have set aside money for the career and technical education portion of La Follette High School. Dr. Jenkins, I got the facilities part. I don't know if you had ideas on just making sure we support that important work.
Yeah, most definitely. And first of all, Damon, thanks for that question. And as you look at our current strategic framework, and we talk about goal one, not only getting our students ready for college, but we talk about careers as well and the community. And what we find as well, that getting our students prepared, articulated skilled trades is what you're sharing now. And when you look at the work that we're doing, not only here at La Follette, but throughout the district, and the way that we're trying to make Capital High and other schools too alike, we're illuminating some of that work that's happening. The current partnership we have with Madison College right now. So we didn't just start thinking about it because of this referendum. We've had that vision for giving our students some other opportunities outside of just one path toward college. And so that's a great question. We're investing in it now. And I think when you see the future plans, when we're taking a long view, we're going to continue to invest in our articulated skilled trades so that our students can have choices while they're in school to do dual enrollment, but even post-school, they'll have a choice. Today, I want to be an electrician. Tomorrow, I want to be an engineer. The next day, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to own my own company. So Damon, you're spot on, and we need voices like yours to be lifted up in the community. Get that conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you both for speaking to that. And I want to thank the whole team for answering the question I asked earlier. I really appreciate that you all were vulnerable in your answers and spoke to inclusivity in a multifaceted way, including our LGBTQ students and our students with disabilities, and overall centering equity as part of this conversation. As we move through the conversation, I think this is one of the more pointed questions you can ask. I live in Madison. I have children who are in elementary and middle school. This question is not coming from me. I do not have a child in middle school yet. But I'm wondering how all of this investment in the high schools will benefit kids in elementary and middle school across the district. And that question is gonna get directed at Mike Hernandez.
It's an excellent question, Ali. It's something that we've been asked in some of our previous settings. Being a former high school principal, I can say that 24/7, the building's in use. We have 4-year-olds to 82-year-olds doing yoga in the buildings. It is an opportunity in which when, as Chad Weezy had spoke, we'll have a year of planning and community input on this, and then we start to build. Our second graders, Jen's sixth grader is going to be a freshman. It's going to touch the entire city through MSCR, through summer programs. I saw some of the questions asking the community using the green space. That's something that we're proud of, and it's something that's been extremely important to us as we've gone through this planning for the past year.
If I could jump in here as well, our facilities, as we've proven, last a while. You know, Madison relies on the facilities to last, and also it's a source of community pride, whether it's Memorial, whether it's West, whether it's La Follette, or whether it's East. We are all flagships that sail the same sea, and it's a source of pride for the community, whatever part of the community is, and that's why it's going to affect elementary children, because everybody is going to be lifted up with the pride that we have in our community and our facilities.
Thank you so much for speaking to that, Mike and Tim. And then Kelly, I was hoping you could reiterate some of the budgetary points you made earlier, that by having this funding for facilities at the high school level, we're actually freeing up funding to work with our middle school and elementary schools.
Yeah, that's right. So what I was mentioning before is that because we have 4 significantly large high schools, a large percentage of our maintenance budget in any given year has to currently go to those current high schools to keep them up and running. The average age of these buildings is about 70 years old. And it takes a lot of money to keep them up and running, these old buildings. And so once we invest in the large high schools and they already have the new windows and the new roofs and the roofs aren't leaking and the heating and plumbing is working, it'll allow our maintenance budget and our trades to turn and focus to our elementary and middle schools. And it'll happen really fairly quickly once this referendum gets up and going. So I think what you're going to see is facilities investment across the district coming from this referendum, both from the operating budget side and from the facilities maintenance budget side. And I didn't even mention the utilities budgets that'll be freed up because of the solar projects and the other energy efficiency savings that'll exist there. So there's all kinds of exciting opportunities, but even the elementary and the Capitol High moving frees up over $300,000 of lease money that is just being leased right now. So that's operating money that'll be available after this.
Thank you so much, Kelly. The next question is an excellent question on and it basically is, are the students in the Buckeye Road neighborhood that have to be bused, will these students have to be bused to the new elementary school proposed for Rimrock neighborhood? And this is for Mike. I could re-ask if it didn't go through.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'll take that question. It's a great question. So in short, the correct answer is yes, some of them will be able to be bused over to the South Rimrock Road area. But I'd like to point out that there are 500 students in the Rimrock Road area, and only 170 in and around Alice, but some of them go to Nuestro Mundo, so they will be closer. So the end result is that fewer students will have a longer bus ride. And also, I'd like to point out that two other things. One is that students that live around the Alice School do have the option and advantage of going to Nuestro Mundo in terms of the lottery. And then finally, there's always the option for an internal transfer for families that would like to go to another nearby elementary school. So thank you for that question.
Absolutely, and I turn to Ali for the next question. Or I could ask the next question as well. And that would be for Kelly. Can the community members that live in these parts of the districts, especially parts where we have some financial troubles, especially because of COVID, can we afford these kind of taxes increases during COVID? Or more often, can we afford not to?
Yeah, I can kick that off, and Dr. Jenkins and others might have more to add. I think it's important to recognize absolutely that in the middle of COVID-19, it leaves us with a number of open questions. And this board took that very seriously. The board was meant to vote on these referendum questions back in March and put a pause on that decision while we waited to see what happened with COVID-19 and our overall economy. What we know moving forward is that without these investments into our overall school and into the overall budget, we might not be able to come out of the pandemic stronger. So what we aim to do is to come out of this pandemic, not as we were before, but stronger than we've ever been. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that we can retain and hire high quality staff. We need to make sure that we're investing in student programming and giving our students what they need in an individualized way to succeed. And so the operating referendum is designed to do just that. On the facility side, it will never be cheaper to do these buildings. One way or another, these buildings, as Chad mentioned, are at their end of life, one way or another. And if we don't do these projects now, it's only gonna get more expensive. And let me explain why. We are at historically low interest rates right now. The school district's short-term borrowing rate, we just got a 0.2%, 0.2% interest rate. Getting those kind of interest rates on our long-term bonds, the $317 million in the December or January timeframe, will save us millions of dollars in borrowing costs to do these projects. But in addition to that, it's gonna be a market where the construction companies are gonna be bidding for our work. We're going to be having more bidders, which will drive the prices down for our projects. If we go at a time when the economy is doing great, interest rates are going to be high and construction firms aren't going to be as competitive to be working with us. So those are just two reasons why now is the time to do facilities. But in addition to that, we put thousands of workers to work here in Madison, working on these large citywide projects. And Chad can add more on the construction side itself. But really now is the time to invest in our students, invest in our buildings, and make sure that we're ready on the other side of COVID-19.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. The only, I think you did a great job summarizing in terms of interest rates and the availability of trades labor. We have in all of the area communities right now, construction projects either happening or just wrapping up, that a lot of the contractors, local contractors doing this work, we hypothesize will be hungry for more K-12 work when we're ready to send these to bid. And we're actually, for the first time in about a decade, seeing the cost of construction starting to level just slightly right now, and believe that we're hitting the market at about the perfect time. But to Kelly's point, I can't reiterate, I guess for scale, we built Olson Elementary School less than 20 years ago, I believe for about $11 million. And if we rebuilt Olson today, the thing would cost us $37, $38, $40 million to rebuild. So every time that dollar amount, and it is a big one, gives us sticker shock, I think we all would agree that the small investment we made in La Follette High School that seemed like a giant one 50 plus years ago has paid off times 20. And that's what would happen with these projects as well. We have some initial sticker shock and we get it. Times are tough in particular for certain folks, but we believe these are community assets that we are responsible for as a community to take care of. And we believe the time is appropriate right now to make this ask. And we're certainly hopeful for good results in a month.
Let me say just to Chad and both Kelly, I mean, those are great points. But to that question, this is something that we mentioned a little bit earlier in terms of, we wrestle with this and we put it out in the survey, 60% came back saying yes, but the 40%, I said, we do want to honor because during these times, it's tough. COVID-19, we have two pandemics going on right now, COVID-19 and the racial justice. And before COVID-19, we have some historical wrongs that we're still trying to correct today. And children were behind their peers, particularly Black, brown children, special needs children, poor children, children who may have language challenges. And this is our opportunity to become intentional with the dollars. It will be a short-term pain. But overall, during the pandemic, this is an opportunity for you as taxpayers, for us to have reciprocal accountability, where you hold us accountable for what we do with the dollars. And then we're looking for your support to continue with the momentum that we've already started. But it's not business as usual. We go for a referendum and that's it. We're being intentional with our equity strategy. And this is an equity strategy when we talk about looking at early literacy and focusing in on the science of reading, supporting our staff and getting the professional development that they need, continue to build upon the momentum that we have going with the STEAM right now. And I think earlier, as Damon mentioned about the articulated skilled trades, these are opportunities during this pandemic. So when Ms. Rupa mentioned coming out stronger, we have to be intentional. And that's what we're looking to do. And that's what I think we've been asked to do, we've been asked to do this and having our equity strategies when the board's speaking directly to us because they're getting it directly from you as our community. I think that was a great question. And I want to make sure that you continue to, whoever asked that question, to continue to uplift that up so that we can stay true to this referendum and come out on the other side with positivity for everybody, even those who are struggling to take on some of these taxes that we're asking.
Thank you all so much for speaking to that. We have a question from Casey Healy. I live on the east side. I've lived on the east side of Madison for 63 years. My family's on the east side and do not have resources to go to college. Will the remodel in the tech ed department give students a pathway into apprenticeship programs and into the trades? This question is for Devon first and then Chad.
Mm-hmm. So yes, so what I'm excited about here is the remodel, but just as Chad has talked to me and the staff about that, we get to work with the students and our staff to develop what's next, right? And so we get to customize this part. And so I hear that loud and clear. And my goal is to partner with my students, ask them their needs and wants and what they're looking to have in terms of trade, but also to partner with the community and have them be a part of this as well. And I think that just excites me. I'm going to also have one of my assistant principals, Mr. Rosing, just touch on it just briefly too, Chad. Thank you.
Yeah, and so like I started my teaching career as a Lancer, did my student teaching in my first year's teaching, and I love La Follette. And La Follette doesn't have spaces right now that are designed for quality instruction to happen. Instructional spaces are set up for a style of learning that doesn't fit our learners now. And they're set up for a style of learning that isn't going to prepare them to be career and community ready, much less college ready. So one of the things that we're going to see with this is instructional spaces that allow students to be grouping together in ways that reflect the modern workplace and to be arranged in a way that allows for really innovative instructional techniques to prepare them for careers that are going to allow them to thrive and be successful.
I can certainly attempt to finish that off. I guess I now have firsthand experience. I indirectly have all of our skilled trades in Madison schools, we've got 40 of them report to me. And I've seen firsthand, what a shortage there is in that area. We have an opening for an electrician. We've been trying to fill now for over 2 years. And I've also seen how skilled trades can actually be a pathway to support a family. To Dr. Jenkins' point, you can go from an electrician to an electrical engineer. You just need that foot in the door. So it's on me to work with Devon and that community to make sure that we get the instructional design correct and we build the facilities to support it. And I know skilled trades is a giant part of that. One of my favorite parts of the east side of Madison was the fact that was something that continued to be important to our families and communities. And I know it's going to come out as we get feedback to make sure we've got a top-notch trades program at La Follette High School.
Mike Hernandez, you wanted to chime in as well?
Yeah, if I may, I mean, La Follette right now has an extremely strong pathways program through their coordinators, through the support of the instructional leaders in that building, and through the work in the last year and a half, I've had the privilege of working with and watching how Devon has navigated the community and the community partners, and seeing of bringing them into the building to help with just to co-construct on the possibilities. We promised our community college and career ready. And it can go in either order of those, and it can go together as well. And with our community partners looking at the STEAM area, by far, I'm the most excited about the STEAM opportunities, the collaborative spaces, but thinking of the partners that could work with us, this could be the next pathway that we could be bringing into La Follette, to all the schools. But tonight we're talking about La Follette, bringing it in La Follette and seeing about the skill sets that we could continue to better.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next question actually is for Chad, and that is, where can we find information on the athletic facilities being proposed? I'm concerned about the money being spent on athletics, and it's for both Kim and Chad.
Yeah, so I can certainly get that kicked off, Nikki, and then we can turn it over to Tim. I can tell you to start with, once again, on that website, MMSD Future Ready, there are detailed budgets on all of these projects and the amount that we plan on spending on athletics. A few things I guess I'd say about the La Follette project specifically. The La Follette projects, one, we are reinvesting in 2 gym spaces in order to free up, like I said, that blank box that will give us the ability to redo the instructional space on the inside of the building. So it's kind of a 1-for-1 flip. We have to invest in a FIAD spot and an athletic spot to redo that instructional space. The other thing I guess I want to make sure I highlight that these are not just athletic spaces; they're community spaces. So I lived this firsthand at La Follette High School, where we weren't even allowed to practice football on Lucier Stadium, let alone allow a program from MSCR or the Y or lacrosse or rugby or any other place use La Follette High School, use Lucier Stadium because it was grass and we tear it up. This is a big community investment as well. I guess lastly, and I'll turn it over to Tim, and I certainly have a soft spot in athletics. I can personally say, in my time at La Follette High School, if we didn't have a way to engage some of our students through athletics, that's what got them on the bus every day, got them to the classroom, connected them with certain adults. I personally know I helped graduate students as the head football coach at La Follette that may have given up if they didn't have that personal connection with me or one of my coaches. We're about the whole kid at MMSD. Sometimes what gets a student out of bed is an experience in orchestra. Sometimes it's an experience happening in the auto shop. Sometimes it's something in a chemistry lab, and sometimes it's something in athletics. So I think these projects are all encompassing. We're doing our very best to make sure that we put as much as we can in classrooms, but at the same time, athletics is a huge part of the La Follette community, and we also have to support those things as well.
Also, what athletics does is it provides other places for students to achieve or to perform. Although someone might have shown up to watch a football game on a Friday night or a basketball game on a Saturday, it allows the pep band, it allows the marching band, it allows the cheerleaders and the spirit squad, it allows the student section. I think it's a big push to, instead of taking the pictures of the players, turn around and take a picture, because the true picture is what's behind you, is the hundreds of students that show up, or the students with their parents that show up to be proud in their community. Also, that you can't get an email reply from my assistant without the link for facility use. So those facility uses are also something that allows the community to be proud of our facilities as well. And we're a school, but we are a community, and that's what we work towards. And we provide opportunities for students to perform and achieve in front of their peers and in front of their community.
Thank you all so much for speaking to those questions. It has been mentioned in previous sessions that MMSD schools have a goal of being 100% green by 2040. Can you talk about how the referendum will get us closer to that goal? And this question is going to be directed first at Chad and then at Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Holly. I appreciate that. We do have a school board resolution that says we are working our way towards being 100% green by the time we get to 2040. A part of that resolution is that we want to be a district that has carbon neutrality, which means we want to make as many neutrons as we use, or neutrons and electrons as we use on an annual basis, and these projects will give us an immediately kickstart in that work. Estimates right now would be, when we redo the heating and cooling system, the new LED lights and the new windows, we'd have an immediate 23% impact on our utility bill. That's straight off the top. That's not mentioning the solar panels that are going on the roof and other innovative work that we're doing. I just bought my first electric car as an for an MMSD fleet, and now we have an electric car. I see us moving in the direction likely of electric trucks. So it'll be small pieces for us the next 20 years to get there. The other part we've been working on is Kelly and I have worked on a partnership with MG&E where we actually buy into a solar consortium where the energy coming and feeding our schools, they're the ones producing the electricity, but it's solar electricity and it's carbon neutral. So it's going to be a comprehensive plan to get there. There's a decent chance by the time we get to 2040, we still have boilers in some of our buildings, but that doesn't mean we can't make more electricity and make more carbon neutral electricity than we're actually burning up, and that will be our goal. So we want to be carbon neutral, 23% off the top on these projects when we're done with them, which is really exciting.
Thank you so much. This next question is from Rebecca Keenan Murray, who says, will La Follette get a second exit, assumingly in the parking lot? Could Chad answer this?
Once again, Rebecca, you're striking a chord here. I lived in that parking lot for 10 years. Lots of times after school, it isn't pretty. I know that they've taken a shot at a second exit at La Follette a number of times to get out on Sponham Road. I can certainly see why many of our neighbors on Sponham would not be wild about 200 Lancers heading down a residential neighborhood before and after school. And I think that's met some resistance through the years. It'll be on us with a year of planning, working with traffic engineering, with the city of Madison and the neighbors around La Follette High School to come up with a plan that makes the most sense as far as upgrades to that parking lot. So I certainly can't I can't guarantee that there's going to be an exit out the east side of that parking lot, although I know it would be nice, but we also have to be good neighbors. We also have to work with the city of Madison. That street's not designed for heavy traffic. There aren't sidewalks in that neighborhood yet that I'm aware of. I think all those things are factors in terms of how we get students and adults in and out in their vehicles.
I misspoke previously, cut Andrew's time off to speak about green energy and the referendum. Andrew, could you please speak to it?
Well, that's quite all right. Thank you. I would simply add that our sustainability projects are an excellent opportunity. They capture a value that this community holds to reduce our carbon footprint, to ensure cleaner air, cleaner water. So it's very much aligned to our values as a district. It also is good business sense. The payoff on these projects really does make financial sense. So it's got a lot of appeal, and then can actually use these projects to demonstrate sustainable energy and sustainable systems for our students. So it's an excellent opportunity from a learning standpoint as well. That's all I wanted to add, so thank you.
Sorry about skipping you, Andrew. That was unintentional, but thank you for your answer. Ali, could you take the next one?
Thanks so much, Nikki. I appreciate your co-piloting of the questions, and I'm excited about this next question. We've got a question from Damon Glenn. Not only is local contractors important, but local workers. What is the plan to employ local workers? And this question will be directed at Chad.
Yeah, so Damon, that's also important to us as we work our way through these projects. I have to balance this. So it's on me to make sure that we're fiscally responsible with these projects, that we have enough workers and enough contractors that I can meet a schedule. We won't be able to have these schools under construction for a decade if we only worked with just local people that lived in the city of Madison, and I had to wait for certain trades folks to work their way around our buildings. We actually have school board policy that has called out the importance of working with local contractors and local workers. If on bid day, and this is pretty rare, on bid day, if a local or union contractor comes in and they're within 5% of the low bid, but they were a little high, they were 5% high, our school board language gives them the ability to match low bid. And then I would send the local contractor to the school board versus somebody that might be, from northern Wisconsin or from the Chicago area that came in with a slightly lower bid. So our school board process has actually already given preference to both local and union contractors. I certainly hear you around trying to employ as many people from Dane County and our city as possible. I'm proud of the fact that we have school board language that we will adhere to in a competitive bidding environment. At the same time, I have to make sure that they come in on time and on budget as well. So I think we've got a pretty good balance to try to keep this thing as local as possible. I'd like to see all 317 stay in the community if it's at all possible.
Thank you so much, Chad, for your answer to that question. Nikki, it's back to you.
Perfect. And this next question is for the La Follette Assistant Principal, Mr. Thompson, Library and the LMC. This person wants to know details on renovating of these spaces and if the library and LMC will be renovated.
So as far as what I could see in the plan, that is part of the plan. They're going to be, I believe that's a medium touch on those, Chad, correct? Right?
Yeah, Matt, that is correct. We've got money set aside for at least a medium touch in there. I think some of the biggest things we're going to want to see in that space is, we don't have very good integrated technology. Right now, it's kind of your classic whole bunch of bookshelves, some rehashed furniture. It is not flexible at all as far as bringing students in and out. You've kind of got that back community use space with your MSCR tutoring partnership. So we've got money set aside for you to rethink that whole second floor. At all the projects at the high schools, we really haven't touched the library media centers with substantial work in a long way. And then we've got the area right below in the pit that offers us some opportunity there. We've had some of our design teams actually mention the possibility of what we call a learning stair, like a 10-foot wide stairwell with long, big treads that might give us the possibility of actually connecting the new area down below to the library and media center up above. So there's lots of things we're already starting to think about as far as what that whole center of the building could mean for collaboration and instruction. And guys, I'm going to duck out 3 minutes early. I'm going to another referendum session over on the west side of Madison. I won't tell them how excited I was to talk to La Follette Lancers tonight. I'll have to act like I'm just as excited to talk about those Spartans. So I'm out. It's good to see everybody. Have a good evening.
I think that was an excellent last question. And I think, but Kelly, do you have anything to give any final words, or Dr. Jenkins?
I was gonna say, oh, Dr. Jenkins, did you want, otherwise I can wrap it up, you tell me.
Okay, I just wanted to just say thanks to everyone, and I definitely want Principal LaRosa to wrap it up here at the end, but I just tell you, it's a lot of pride inside over in Lancer Country. Just thank everybody for coming in tonight and participating. Just really great question, and I look forward to working with everyone in the community. And then Damon, I ask you again to continue to lift those questions up for us, and it seems like perhaps you and I need to have coffee when we can stop social distancing here, sir. Okay? Look forward to talking to you. All right, Mr. LaRosa.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. I just want to say I appreciate everyone for being here tonight and bringing your passion and excitement through your questions. Hopefully you feel it all from us for sure. And we just want to say thank you again for believing in us. And Ms. Pfluger, do you want to add to that?
I'm excited to be a Lancer. I'm excited to be a future Lancer parent. It's a great time to be in this community, and the future is looking bright. L's up, everybody.
L's up.
L's up.
Thank you for being here. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night, Al. Thanks so much for all your work.
Thank you.